very excited to be recording our intro here.
Yes, let's talk about how this all came about.
Well, I will let you tell the story, but first I will say, like all good things, over queso.
Of course, all good things happen over queso. So yes, we were actually having a work lunch. So as a break from work, we worked together at the time and had a whole discussion about work. And at almost what I thought would be the tail end of our lunch, you said something about, I'd love more time to focus on things I'm really passionate about. And I said, well, what are you passionate about? And you said religion. And I was like, oh, this is not interesting to me at all, but good for you. That's great. And then you started to talk about what you meant by that. And it turned out that there was a lot of intersection between your experience and the topics you were interested in and things that I've dabbled with in the past as well. So, and quickly our lunch turned a corner and ventured into this whole new area and went much longer than we anticipated.
Yeah, so. Delightfully so. And it's so funny because, all I want to do is talk about things spiritual. That's it. Like if I could just all day long, that's what I would do. And I don't know how to communicate that to people because every word is so loaded. The easiest thing is to just say religion. Because when I go, I'm a mystic, they're like, you're a nut, and the lunch is usually over. But you and I had so much common ground. Like we didn't really know each other. We'd lived these almost parallel paths in a way, in terms of what we had explored and what we were interested in. And it was just delightful to find a kindred spirit.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise and a good example of if you venture into areas outside of the norm, sometimes you find commonality with people that you would not have anticipated for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that part of I position myself more as a life. What a beautiful mystery. That's kind of, where I'm rooted is who knows. And so I love to be curious and explore and read and try things on or think through them and say, does this fit for me or does this not fit for me? And you've had a similar path, but I feel like whereas I intentionally said I've dabbled, you've gone deeper. So, you've had a pretty extensive or long-term, meditation commitment. And I, went and was trained in transcendental meditation and did it for a short period of time. And it's always on my to-do list to get back to a regular practice. So I think that, you probably find it hard to define your passion for this topic because it is much like the title that we've given this podcast, Sacredish. It encompasses a lot of different elements. I am not as rooted. I mean, I was raised in a Christian tradition in a particular denomination. I left that church when I was 16. And I would say that was part of what set me off on a path in terms of my, seeking answers and different perspectives. And then you had, honestly, almost an opposite path from that in terms of starting from a place where you weren't in a religious tradition.
Yeah, I mean, I was baptized Lutheran, and I think we went to church until I was 2, but I don't remember that, right? And so I did not grow up in the church, but I always just felt this pull and, would define myself probably as a seeker for most of my life. But I had deeply religious, beautiful, loving, kind, Martin Luther says, preach the gospel at all times, but only when necessary, use words. And my family, are those people, right? And so they were just such an inspiration in that indirect way. But no, I didn't grow up in the church. I didn't get up on Sundays. That was golfing. Weekends were for golfing, right? So there was none of that. But I was always seeking and always reading, and just spent so much time reading. I just couldn't get enough. I still can't get enough. Like it's absolutely bananas. But and so I experienced and spent time in different practices. Probably the biggest other practice would be Buddhism. Most of my college years, I wouldn't say I was a good practicing Buddhist, but I was very committed. I was very committed to it. And to this day, I had my children baptized Lutheran. Suddenly, when I was pregnant, I had all the answers I'd been seeking. And I was like, oh, I must return to the church and my kids must be baptized. And, I don't know where all that came from, but that was kind of my renaissance. But to this day, I would define myself, the order changes from time to time, but, a good Celtic Franciscan Buddhist Lutheran. So it's always ultimately Lutheran, but the order, depending on where I am and what I'm studying and what my call is, shifts a little. And for me, what's really, really fundamental, and hence, as you kind of talked about the name of the podcast, I think we're living in the garden. I really think this is it. Realized eschatology. Is it perfect? No. Are there mysteries? Absolutely. Do I think I have all the answers? No way, Jose. Absolutely not. But I think we're living in the garden, and I think that's how we should see the world. And that's what I like to talk about. So,
and as do I, and that's why we're here. I do find the delicious mystery much more satisfying than certainty, I will say. And so for a brief period after I left the church that I was raised in, I attended a few other churches, but I also, in my rebellious 20s, tried on atheism for size and to see if it fit, and it did not fit for me. My father was an atheist. My mother is religious, and that's the church we were raised in. My father was atheist. And so I think also, I revered my father, and I thought, well, maybe this is what I am. It's kind of a really binary view of it, right? I'm either this or I'm the opposite of this. And it did not fit well. It did not fit me well. It's inherently, to me, it's so much the same. It's this certainty that the answer, and the answer is that none of it exists. And, it's also to me kind of inherently negative, and I'm not a negative person. So atheism didn't stick, and I'm glad it did not. And it set me down a path of, we both fangirl over, Joseph Campbell, and we loved, I also have read a lot about Buddhism and consider myself a failed Buddhist. Attachment, man. I love attachment. So hard to let go
suffering.
of.
I just love suffering.
Attachment and suffering are my jam. I cannot let them go. As I mentioned, at one point I was trained in transcendental meditation, and, I know people who consider that practice life-changing. It's something that I have always intended to make a more regular part of my life, and maybe we'll see. Maybe throughout this journey together, that will be something that I recommit to. But, in my reading, one of the things that I found very reassuring is just the fact that there's so much commonality across the major religions and a lot of the core tenets. And for me, I live basically kind of by two pieces of that. And the most central one is the Golden Rule. And the Golden Rule is represented, in Islam, it's represented in Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, you name it. Like it's there, that kernel is there everywhere. And so if everyone's saying it, there must be something to it. And I do feel like the Golden Rule, treat others as you would treat yourself, or as you would expect to be treated, is for me the best compass that I have, right? It doesn't require a lot of rules around how I should act. It is, I want to be treated with respect, compassion, empathy, etc. I need to extend those same things to other people. And then, probably a byproduct of that is that I highly value honesty. So, I want people to be honest with me. And so I need to live that value in the world as well. And those are kind of the two, the two things that I root in, the two pieces of morality that I root in when I'm trying to evaluate my actions or the best path
Mm,
forward.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you do a beautiful job of it. And to be able to articulate what you believe is a gift, and it's inspiring. Um, yeah, I feel like I fail so much, like I need so much help. And I guess hopefully you get points for striving, right? But love the Lord your God and treat your neighbor as yourself, right? Or love your neighbors. And it doesn't say love people who are like you. It doesn't say love people who think like you, look like you, talk like you, act like you. It says love your neighbor. And if there was more of that, what an amazing world this would be, right?
It would.
What an amazing world
Yes.
it would be. So, um, and I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to have all the answers. That'll be very clear, I'm sure, over the course of this series. But I believe in a big God. And to think that I can know what he's thinking is arrogance. It lacks creativity, right? So, living in the mystery, I'm somewhere between the question and the answer, just kind of living in the mystery, and just enjoying it. The most spectacular thing for me is to stop and realize that I'm alive. Just to
Hmm.
stop and realize that I'm alive, that I can see the grass and I can see that beautiful crepe myrtle and I can see the sky. And when we're done here, I'll go get in my hammock and the sun's going to shine on my face and I can put my foot in the grass while I swing and I can pet my dog. And I'm like, I'm alive. Like I'm actually alive in this amazing cosmos. And I don't want to lose that. I don't want to lose that. I want to stay.
Yeah, we're all having this beautiful embodied sacred experience every day at every moment. And
Hmm.
how can we tap into that more?
Yeah.
I think it's something that we intend to talk a lot about.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I don't tap into it, when I forget, when I become unconscious, when I fall into the routine, I'm less happy, I'm less buoyant, I'm less kind, I'm less compassionate. And I find ultimately that I'm less happy. I'm less happy. And it's all a gift. It's all a gift. Even the darkness, which we all have, and will have. Unfortunately, I don't understand that, but it is, right. It's a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift to be alive. It's a gift, to be able to love other people. One of my favorite sayings, and I don't know who said this, but um, God isn't the object of my love. He's the subject of my love. And trying to live that out is my daily. And again, I fail so much. I fail so much, but that's okay. It's okay. I'm trying. I'm trying.
Well, that's the when I went to meditation training, I was like, I'm not good at this because my brain will not stay on task. It will not quiet. It is a little monkey constantly jumping up out of the chair, you know? And for whatever reason, I think I'd heard this before, but my teacher said that is the practice. The
Mhm.
practice is putting that monkey back in the chair.
That's right.
That
That's right.
that is the practice. And I well, my therapist has talked to me a lot about my absolute language and self-judgment. So that's a part of it for sure. But also, I think it just finally dawned on me that, oh, that I am doing it. Like, this is it. And perfection is not the goal,
That's right.
and perfection is not attainable. Just being in it and bringing yourself back to center, back to your breath, back to the moment is like, you give yourself a check mark. You're doing it.
Yeah.
This is
Stay
it.
on your mat, right? Stay on your mat. And it's to your point, like I'm staying on my mat. I'm just going to stay on my mat and keep
Well,
going.
you do a pretty darn good job of it. So you need to give yourself a little bit more credit, to be
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
To be
It's
fair.
it's a journey though, it's a journey. And I respect everybody else's journey. Everybody has to answer their own call. And so, we just have to trust that there's a bigger picture. that there's a bigger picture. So anyway, I could talk about this all day, every day, or every 2 weeks, whatever your schedule allows. But this is what I do. This is all I read about. This is all I talk about. I'm a little bit of a broken record. So it's nice to have a new outlet. I haven't had an outlet for this in a while. So I'm very excited. Can't wait to hear from people who listen in. Hopefully people listen in, a few, to hear their thoughts and to kind of, grow some more.
Yeah, and that lunch that we had after we were done, well, not done, but we knew we had to get back to work. So we were wrapping up. You said I've always wanted to start a podcast. That's something I've wanted to do. And I said, well, I'll go along for the ride. And so honestly, if up until that point you had told me, oh, you might be co-host of a podcast about spirituality, I would have not believed you at all. In fact, when I've told a few of my friends, they've been like, what?
That's awesome.
I would not have thought of myself. I am certainly not an expert, but I am also a seeker. And our goal and our hope is that we will attract other seekers who are interested in engaging on all these lovely, juicy, wonderful topics about what it's like, what it means to really be alive. And, I tend to gravitate more towards the intellectual side and what's the research and what are facts and all of these things. But the entire reason I am open to the mystery of life is because I have experienced things that are not easily explainable to me. And I think, most of us have, some of us are very close to a spiritual practice and some of us not so close, but almost everyone I know has experienced something in their life that is transcendent, that is very much outside of an explainable scientific phenomena to them. So that's how we ended up here. That's how we've started down this path. And I think we're both pretty excited about it.
Very excited. I'm glad you just agreed to embark on this fun, crazy journey. My friends are like, "Oh, of course you are." it's like, of course you are. If you're not teaching, you're doing this. So I'm really looking forward to it. I welcome different points of view and debate and discussion. And I know we talked about maybe having some guests join us.
Yes.
Just to kind of expand the conversation. And just do our part to show up in the world, and share our experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to read what we put down as our intent for this podcast. Great. So the Sacredish podcast is a soulful space for seekers and curious minds. We love people who are curious. We're curious people, ready to explore life's deeper layers, because that's where the good stuff is. Through heartfelt conversations, personal reflections, discussions with experts. So we're going to bring some of those folks in because we're certainly not. Maybe they won't want to be characterized as experts either, but people who have different points of view. And, storytelling, lived experiences, ours and others. We want to illuminate the path of mystical spirituality, helping listeners uncover personal meaning as we open our eyes to the sacred around us.
Well, we did well with that. That's good.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It does. I can't wait. I think some of our first topics are around meaning and joy. And then I take a bite out of original sin. And then you do some great stuff on divine feminine. So that's kind of what our listeners have to look forward to short term.
Yes. Yeah. We dive right into the deep end. We're not kidding around. I think, meaning, belief, joy, all these like core essential topics that I'm sure we'll continue to revisit. But there's a lot of good stuff to talk about. And we're excited to have some folks along, hopefully with us on this ride. So.
All right. Welcome to Sacredish, everyone. We hope you enjoy the conversation. Thank you, Erica.
Yes. Welcome to Sacredish. Sometimes enlightenment's a vibe, and we're bringing that vibe.